why the system is threatened by real men, and this concept of toxic masculinity. Let's get straight into this. This is a juicy topic. I'm sure if you live in this world, you know exactly what this idea is all about. You've heard it, you've heard somebody say it, you saw it on social media. I have a lot of notes here that I'm going to be reading about this concept and just how toxic the idea of toxic masculinity is. So let's dive right into it. We live in a world where this thing called toxic masculinity is brought up quite often. At face value, it claims to address harmful societal norms like the idea that men shouldn't cry, be vulnerable, or show any emotion, period. They need to be rigid, firm, overly disciplined, immovable, etc., etc. So they need to be structured and unfeeling and strong and all of that. This inverted, idea of strength, like always strong, always, no emotion, don't show any emotion. And of course, there's room for conversations about unhealthy behaviors in men, but not just men, in anybody. Unhealthy behaviors stem from ignorance. They stem from a disconnected self, a fragmented psyche. They stem from ignorance, fear, a imbalanced psyche, not understanding who we are, etc. I can go on forever. But this concept, toxic masculinity, isn't about addressing societal norms. It's a concept that has been weaponized to create a tear in the psyche of not just men, but humanity, period. It's a twisted and distorted tool designed to vilify masculinity itself and instill fear in both men and women alike. Masculinity in its true and authentic form is not toxic. Just by adding the word toxic to the word masculine is a distortion in and of itself. Masculinity is powerful, it's protective, it's courageous, and it's essential. So why does the system, the control system, work so hard to tear it down? And of course, the system's not just wanting to tear down masculinity, to suppress it, to keep us from embodying it. It's also doing the same for femininity, which I'm going to be making an entire other video about. Why is there such a massive push to make men question who they are and what they bring to the world? It's because real men, authentic, grounded, and unapologetically masculine men, are one of the biggest threats to the control system. A system that thrives on division, ignorance, weakness, and submission, conformity, and blind obedience. And if you are in your masculine essence, you're not going to conform. You're going to be questioning things. You're going to be standing up for what is right. I'm going to get into all that. So let's talk about the agenda behind the attack on masculine energy through this idea of toxic masculinity. So I'm going to get into 5 points that I have written down here. And then on the fifth point is so massive that that's going to take 5 more points for me to go down to be able to express I feel fully within the time frame that I've set myself to make this video. So the system doesn't just attack masculinity randomly, it is strategic. It is absolutely strategic. It is precise. They know what they want to achieve with this, and they are achieving it. So the first why they suppress masculinity, why they don't want us to be us as men and women, for that matter, they want us to not be harnessing our gifts and harnessing our potential and being just men, is the system wants to erode individual sovereignty. A man who knows himself, his purpose, his principles under natural law, his values, who he is, his strength, is difficult, if not impossible, to control. A man who's in alignment with masculine energy, a man who knows who he is, he's not going to just blindly follow orders or conform to narratives that don't align with truth. The system fears men who think for themselves and stand firm in their convictions. These kinds of men are unwavering because they have killed their false self in the light of wisdom and truth. They're going to stand up for what is right no matter what, and that is a massive threat to the control system. The control system relies on unthinking sheep, basically. People who just will fall in line, do what the system says, no questions asked. The second why, the regression of masculine energy weakens the family unit. Strong men build strong families. Fathers provide stability, discipline, and leadership in the home. But if men are told their natural instincts are dangerous or toxic, they're more likely to step back from their role. If society is condemning it, I mean, what? I'm not going to embody that energy, even though it's part of who I am. And when the family unit breaks down, the system wins because fragmented families are easier to manipulate and control. The third why is that this idea of toxic masculinity creates division between men and women, of course. The narrative around toxic masculinity pits men and women against each other. Men are made to feel ashamed of their masculine traits and energy, while women are taught to see masculinity as a threat, as something to fear or reject. This division weakens both sides. When men and women are divided, we lose the power of unity, collaboration, and balance. The male and the female must be cohesive. They must be symbiotic. There must be a free flow between the brain hemispheres, free flow between the relationship between these two energies, these two forces. The fourth why is it neutralizes protectors. Men are natural protectors of their families, their communities, and the values and principles they stand for and are aligned with. But if the system can make men feel uncertain about their role, it neutralizes that protective force. A society without protectors is far easier to control and exploit. There is no one standing up and exposing the darkness and evil running amok in the world. Also, in some cases, women have to start taking on the role of the man, right? We see that widespread happening today. Women working 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks, and more than that. Leaders of the household. Men are the women and women are the men. You know, it's becoming normalized because people are so filled with all this fear and all those programming. They don't know what's right and what's wrong or what's this and what's that. Their instincts are so shoved down. Their intuition, their spiritual guidance. They don't have it. They're totally locked into this warped worldview that the system has been feeding them since birth. So in these cases that women start to take on the role of the man's gone. He's subservient. He is softened to the point of mush. He has no backbone, no spine. He doesn't stand tall. He's hunched over. He's just following orders. He's just following what the system says. He's just, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. He's not standing up for what is right because he doesn't know what is right. He just listens to the religions and the governments and the news. And that's what he worships. Conformity, slavery, mind control. And so this women having to step into the man's energy can naturally cause resentment in women because they want a strong man to lead the household naturally. It's a requirement in nature, the masculine protector and the feminine nurturer. And I'm not going to sit here and say there's no exceptions at all, but there's a lot more at play here in metaphysics and getting into all of these ideas. This world has become so inverted and so corrupt that it's becoming increasingly difficult for people to be able to see the truth. We can see it, but a lot of people just have so much mind control that they have to sift through and delete before they can even come close to understanding one iota of what's being expressed here, let alone any other information that pertains to truth. So the fifth most massive problem with this toxic masculinity program is that it seeks to suppress the evolution of consciousness and human potential. And so now I'm going to get into the 5 ways that this program, this toxic masculinity program, suppresses or seeks to suppress the evolution of consciousness and human potential. Masculinity is a catalyst for growth, so it has to be embodied. It has to be harnessed and allowed to flow freely if consciousness is to evolve, if we are to continue to evolve spiritually, physically, psychologically, on all levels. We have to be who we are. We have to embody this energy. And again, it's not just masculine, it's feminine as well. It's balance, it's cohesiveness, it's symbiosis. Masculine energy is about action, progress, and transformation. It represents the drive to explore, build, and push boundaries, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. When men embrace their true nature, they become innovators, visionaries, and leaders who uplift society naturally. The system fears this because it disrupts the status quo. It disrupts the sheep-like mentality where everyone just unthinkingly falls in line and doesn't take action to embrace their own creative potential, working to harness and express their inherent and unique gifts with the world. So, a human that's allowing these energies to flow freely, and that we are in harnessing these energies and embracing these energies of action and spontaneity, of structure and flow, of discernment and intuition. It's not going to just fall in line. It's not going to just allow himself to become a puppet, become a robot, become a slave. They're going to stand up for what is right. They're going to work towards incredible, fulfilling goals for themselves and others. And they're going to take action. They're going to continuously take action on what they know is right. The second way that it suppresses the evolution of consciousness is that it keeps humanity stuck in survival mode. By promoting ideas like toxic masculinity, the system keeps men and society as a whole focused on survival rather than growth. If men are ashamed of their natural instincts and are afraid to act boldly and honestly, they're less likely to question the deeper structures of control or question their reality, period. They remain stuck in cycles of self-doubt, distraction, and inaction. And I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything that challenges anything. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make any waves. I just want to stay and fly under the radar, do my job, go home, feed my family, and be left alone. The third way that this idea of toxic masculinity suppresses the evolution of consciousness is that it dismantles sacred archetypes. Throughout history, the masculine archetype has been tied to sacred roles: the warrior, the king, the creator. These archetypes represent qualities like integrity, virtue, purpose, and wisdom. The system seeks to erase these archetypes from collective consciousness because they inspire men to rise above slavish thinking and mediocrity and embrace their higher potential. The fourth way is that it disrupts the masculine-feminine balance. And I kind of already got into this, but let's get into it a little bit more. Masculine energy is not meant to dominate feminine energy. Of course not. It's meant to support, protect, and harmonize with it. When this balance is suppressed, humanity loses its ability to co-create and evolve. Dividing and disempowering the masculine weakens humanity's collective ability to awaken to higher states of consciousness. Again, we have to bring balance into our psyches, into our lives. And of course, I'm not talking about 50-50 perfect, cohesive balance at all times. That's not how the brain works. It depends on the moment, it depends on the day, it depends on the hour, it depends on so many factors. But it's like a figure eight, right? It's like a cohesive, like a transference. Your energy needs to be able to flow from one hemisphere to the other fluently with no resistance. So if I'm in a creative mode, I'm going to allow myself to create. If I need to cry in this moment, then I'm going to allow myself to cry and get vulnerable. But I'm going to also have structure. I'm going to have discernment. I'm going to have a certain level of groundedness. I'm not going to allow my emotions to get out of hand. I'm going to grant myself the ability to feel and to understand the wisdom of my emotions and allow myself to feel them all the way without letting it get out of control, without just being totally dominated by my emotions. So a lot of people live in primarily the left brain or the right brain. And that's where this idea of toxic masculinity, all aggression and no empathy, and just apathy and callousness and arrogance, right? A lot of just left brain with no right brain to balance all of that energy out, to turn it into compassion, into empathy, into warmth, into nurturing. We have to have both online. And in one moment, you might be expressing more masculine energy. Another moment, you might be expressing more feminine energy. You just need to have the ability to utilize both in each moment, and the openness and allowance of yourself to do so. It's having a truly open mind, open brain. So we have to have both online and active and ready to be at our service instead of allowing them, your left or right brain or whatever, to, or your ego to rule over your experience and let the mind control you. Like most people, they're under literal mind control because their minds are controlled by the system itself. And so therefore their realities are controlled based off of all the crap that's in their minds. The fifth and final point I want to make in regards to the suppression of the evolution of consciousness, it fears conscious, online, awake people coming together. When men step into their authentic power, they don't just empower themselves, they inspire others to do the same. They become pillars of strength in their families, communities, and beyond. This collective empowerment is a direct threat to the system of control, which thrive on division, fear, and apathy. It relies on people being torn within and fighting with one another. Authentic masculinity is a driving force behind human growth, mentally, spiritually, and physically. When men are empowered, they're not just protectors of their families, they're protectors of truth. They push boundaries, inspire loving action and innovation, and challenge systems of control. But by making men ashamed of their natural instincts, the system keeps them and all of humanity stuck in survival mode, disconnected from their higher potential. This is why they seek to erase sacred archetypes of masculinity, like the warrior or the wise king. These archetypes remind us of who we can be when we're aligned with true purpose and truth principles. A society where men embrace their authentic energy in balance with the feminine is invincible. It can't be divided. It can't be controlled. It can't be manipulated. It cannot be compromised. That's the ultimate threat to the system. And the ultimate reason we must reclaim the truth about masculinity. So, why are real men a threat? Well, of course, I've gotten into some of that already, but let's go into it even more. The system fears real men because we are the ones who resist tyranny. And I'm not saying women don't too. Again, I'm going to make an entire video on feminine energy and the war against feminine energy as well. So look forward to that. We are the ones who stand up for what is right, take risks, and inspire others to do the same. Authentic masculinity is about strength, but it's also about wisdom, compassion, and action. It's the force that protects, builds, and transforms. When men stand strong in truth, we are unstoppable. We remember who we are. We connect to our families, to our communities, and to our purpose. We become protectors of the things that truly matter. And that kind of power, that kind of sovereignty, is the system's greatest fear. So, let's reclaim our masculinity. How? Reclaim masculinity on your own terms. And this is for women too. We need to have balance. Again, within us, we all have masculine and feminine energies. And we need to embrace them both. And men generally are going to be more masculine, and women are going to be more feminine, naturally and largely. We need to be able to harness both energies. Don't let the system define you or scare you into conformity. Masculinity isn't about dominance or suppression. It's about integrity, courage, and balance. It's about being a protector, a leader, and a builder. It's about standing firm in who you are, courageously and unapologetically. The truth is, the world doesn't need less masculinity. It needs more authentic masculinity. More men who authentically know who they are and know how to harness their gifts and harness their potential and understand truth principles. I mean, this world is lacking greatly in this realm. And when people do start to learn these things and they do start to apply the knowledge, typically at some point they just stop. They just say, "Ah, I've learned enough. Ah, I've read enough books. This isn't, that's not how this goes." It's an ongoing practice. You must kill yourself in truth. You must die to the false. You must die to the old belief systems. You must die to your old systematic robotic self and be born again in truth. Born again in who you are. And we in these bodies have both masculine and feminine energy. And we need to be able to harness them equally, allowing the moment to dictate what energy needs to be expressed in that moment and our willingness to express it until it becomes natural, until we have full coherence and full brain balance. And so we're not regressing into our brainstem or into the mammalian brain, and we're just totally dominated by emotions or adrenaline or fight or flight or whatever it is, survival. So the world needs more authentic masculinity. It needs men who are connected to their strength, their hearts, and their spirit, their soul, and the souls of one another. As a result, men who can protect and provide, but also nurture and collaborate. Men who can stand tall, but also adapt, grow, and have the capacity for natural spontaneity and flow. This is what, again, the system fears the most. Men who are not just strong physically, but strong in spirit, in themselves. Men who cannot be manipulated or controlled. Men who will fight not with fists necessarily, but with purpose and principle. But obviously, if it came down to it, they would be willing to defend truth and what is right at all costs. Situation dependent, of course, with common sense. That's obviously not so common these days. This is why we make these videos. This is why I'm doing this right now. So to all the men out there, don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of who you are. Your masculinity is not a problem. It's part of the solution. And when you own it confidently and unapologetically, you'll find that the world around you begins to change because you are now radiating the energy of authenticity. And it's naturally inspiring and uplifting those around you. Or maybe it's a threat to some people around you. But who gives a shit? It's not a threat to them, their souls, their true selves. It's waging war against the mind control that those people are under. To all the falsities and all the bullshit that they've allowed their heads to be filled with. It wages war against mind control. Truth always wages war against mind control. And it washes away lies and deception. And if people are calling you toxic masculine and all this stuff, they have no idea. They're so brainwashed. They're so far gone. All you can do is smile and stay fucking strong in who you are. And like I said I say in other videos, we are seed planters. We're here to plant seeds first. We plant seeds. We're not here to sit around and watch them and wait for people to water them themselves. And, that might take 10,000 lifetimes. Who knows? We're here to plant seeds and be who we are, no matter what. And this is a massive part of the journey. So being authentic and being who you are is telling the world it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to be honest with yourself. And to do what you know is right, regardless of other people's conditioning and false belief systems. So together we can rebuild what's been broken, protect what's sacred, and create something holistically better and aligned. Not just for men, but for everyone. This is for everyone's benefit. We need men in society. We need men in the world to get off their asses and be who they are here to be. And the truth is, you are not broken. It is impossible. We are whole. You are whole. We have just been fed the illusory lie of fragmentation and brokenness. But really, your true self, has always been in the background, waiting for you to come back to who and what you really are, which is love, which is truth, which is nature. You are truth. You are love, integrity, beauty, strength, compassion, courage, freedom. You are freedom. You are life itself. So let's deprogram our minds, lead with our hearts, courageously stand firm in truth, and help heal the world together. And it starts by understanding these bullshit terms that the system propagates, like toxic masculinity. It's bullshit. And I really hope this video helped you to understand that a little bit better. I love you all. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Feel free to leave me a donation in one of the links below. Check out my Patreon. Check out my book. I have published a book. It's called Natural Law Guidebook with one of my friends. It's fantastic. It's designed to be handed out. It's quick. It's simple. A toddler could understand it. So check that out in one of the links below. If you have somebody in your life that this video could benefit, feel free to share this video far and wide. Once again, I love you all so very much. Stay true. Be yourself. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.